G'day guys, how you going? Today we're going to run you through everything you need to know to set up the perfect slide baiting setup, and most important of all, why would you want to slide bait in the first place? We've got a bit of leader dangling around here, but anyway, we're not going to let that get in the way of us. Let's get into it. So guys, what is slide baiting? Slide baiting is a fishing principle where you cast only a sinker, and then after that sinker has set into the bottom, you will then send your bait out separately. We're going to show you in this episode exactly how you're going to do that. But why would you want to do that? Why would you want to have a two-part fishing practice, which means you're not fishing as quick as some of your mates? Well, I'm going to tell you. See, how often have you been on the beach where the wind's blowing in your face, you hoik out that bait as hard as you can, the bait spirals in the air and then drops at your feet? How often has the gutter been out of distance that you can't reach it? How often have you had a bait that's too big that it outmaxes your cast weight on your rod and you simply just can't put enough oomph to get it out to where you need it to be? Now, I bet you as an angler on the beach, you've had that more often than not. And that's where slide baiting comes in. Here's this leader again. How good is it? Slide baiting, what it does is slide baiting enables you to eliminate all those problems and get your bait right in that target zone. That's where slide baiting comes in. See, how often also have you cast and your line has snapped mid-cast and you've watched that sinker rocket all the way to the horizon and you've gone, Christ, I would have loved to have had my bait out there. Well, this is exactly what you're doing, because you are now casting with no resistance on that sinker in terms of that bait acting as a windsock or as some form of resistance in that cast. Hold on 2 seconds, something fell off the ute. And we're back again. That was just my cable ties going for a run down the beach. Now, the other thing it enables us to do is use shorter rods on the beach. So we don't need those super long rods to try and get that extra distance. And I can hear yourself asking, well, why? Why would I want to use a shorter rod? Well, it comes down to the principle of physics. The shorter the rod, the more oomph you can give that fish with the less physical exertion on your body. So the longer the rod, the less you can actually give a big fish. Look at a short stroker, for example, on a boat. You don't see guys fighting massive tuna with 12-foot rods. You see them fighting them with very short strokers to gain the maximum amount of leverage with the less exertion on that body. That's where this all comes in. So what we're going to do now, guys, is I'm going to start running you through what you need to slide bait. Once we've gone through what we need to slide bait, we'll run through a bit of a pros and cons of slide baiting and give you a final thought on the whole idea. Right, let's get into what we need. So what do we need? Well, we need a rod and reel, of course. Now, you're going to notice straight away we're using an overhead or a multiplier off the beach. Why are we doing that? It's a bit strange to the conventional surf reel. Well, that's because you need to fish monofilament for slide baiting, which means if you were to fish monofilament on a standard conventional surf reel, you're simply not going to get the line capacity you're going to need. But we're going to run through the line in a minute. We here have a brand new Prevail Apex 12-foot. Now this is going to be my light slide baiting combo. I've got it matched with a Fathom 240 from Penn, and this is going to be used to slide bait live baits into the surf for mulloway, snapper, and all those sort of smaller mid-range fish, but still have enough guts that if the big sharks come along, I'm still game on. Now you're going to notice another peculiar thing. We've seen a big push of short butt rods, and generally with multipliers you're going to see short butt rods, but I've decided to try a long butt, and the reason is because I actually feel a lot more natural casting a long butted rod. Now, I do have a lot of short butt rods and I can cast them very effectively. However, this is going to be my first overhead long butt setup, and I can't wait to see what it does. Now, this rod here is a 10 to 15 kilo rod. So as I said, it's on the lighter side for slide baiting. A lot of guys that are going to slide bait big baits are going to want longer, stiffer rods. But as I'm going to be sliding half mullet or live baiting whole herring and so forth, this is actually going to be a beautiful rod. So that's the rod and the reel. Next thing you're going to need is this. We've got a wind-on leader. Now, the reason we've got a wind-on leader is because a mono-to-mono connection is too bulky, where a wind-on leader enables me to go from bimini twist to double onto my wind-on leader, which is an 80 to 150 pound wind-on, depending on what I'm targeting, and it'll cast through those guides absolutely effortlessly. Now, the length of the leader I like to run on a 12-foot rod is about 15 feet. Now, that gives me a couple of wraps of the wind-on the reel, and that gives me the strength, but it also enables me to have a little bit out the guides, and then we hitch onto our sinker, which has got its own leader line, as you can see. So the sinker, what kind of sinker do we need? Well, because we're going to be casting a sinker out by itself and then sliding the bait along the line, we need a sinker that is going to hold, and for that you need to go a grapnel. Okay, and as you can see on the top back grapnel, we've got the little hook on the top there, and I'm going to explain why that's very, very important in a minute. Now, with grapnels, there's a lot of grapnels on the market. Long boomed grapnels are great, or even anything, as I said, with this little casting clip on it. The ones I don't recommend are any of the ones with the plastic bottoms. Now, this is a personal thing. A lot of guys probably slide with success with them. However, I find they pull out way too easy, and you need your grapnels to really set hard. With these type here, you can really bend the wires in super tight and get them to hold on. Now, what I have done in the past when I've only had the Gemini style is I have wrapped a cable tie around the prongs to really hold them in tight, and it's worked well. However, the problem there is the breakaway doesn't work because we've cable tied the whole lot together. Now, we've joined this all up with a 30-pound leader down to the sinker. So if the sinker did get jammed whilst we're fighting, because you have got almost an 8-foot sinker line, and it can get caught on other things, it will snap before my 80-pound, in this case, leader, or my 40-pound monofilament. Okay, now with the line, the monofilament, we've got a top shot of monofilament. That's right, our backing on this is braid. I've got 400 meters of 50-pound pen slammer braid underneath my top shot here of 200 meters of 40-pound mono. Now, this is a pen mono. It's a fairly low stretch mono, and it's very well behaved. Okay, let's get to the rig. So once we've got our sinker straight all the way down, I'm going to release this and I'm going to show you what we've got. Come here, big boy. As you can see here, we have got a solid ring. Now, the solid ring is what connects the sinker to this combo. And what we do is when we cast, we actually hook that casting clip, come here, big boy, onto that ring. Okay? So therefore, we're not casting with any leverage on the 30-pound. We're leveraging off the 80-pound, and we won't snap a sinker mid-cast. That's very important, a super solid ring. The rig we're using, okay, let me just grab that. So the rig we're using is a very, very simple rig, and this is the rig that I've found to have the most success with both dead, get out of there, and live baits. So here's your slide bait clip, which we'll explain in the very next video how to use that. Onto the swivel, 80-pound, down to, this is going to surprise a lot of you, an Owner 7.0 Jobu Big Game. Now, what's this little loop down the bottom here? Well, that's a little bit of Dacron that we put on the hook, but once again, I'm going to explain that later as to why we do that. That's on the next video. I can't include it all in this one, it'd be too long. So you're going to need a little bit of Dacron if you're live baiting. If you're dead baiting, it doesn't matter. Your favorite 7.0, in this case a J hook, 80-pound, onto your sliding clip. And guys, that's really all there is to it. So what we're going to do, of course, is we're going to shoot that sinker out. It's not important to get too excited about the bait on the hook at this stage, because what we actually want to do, we want to set that sinker in there for a good couple of minutes to let that sand flow over the top of it and really anchor it down before we shoot our bait, because it's very important the sinker doesn't move. Another thing I should quickly add, which we will cover again in the next video, is we don't want much weed in that water, because weed isn't that great. Which brings me to the pros and cons of slide baiting. Now, obviously in this video, I've spoken a lot about the pros of slide baiting. I really have. So we've got longer casters, we've got bigger baits being able to shot out on lighter lines, we've got shorter rods to create less physical exertion on the body. We can punch baits into the wind without actually having to punch a bait into the wind, because we're just sending a sinker. And this all sounds absolutely marvelous. So where's the negatives? Well, I'm going to tell you. The negatives, it takes a long time to get your bait out. So unlike conventional surf fishing where you shoot your bait out and you're fishing immediately, you're simply not doing this with slide baiting, because remember, cast the sinker, send out the bait. We're going to cover how to send out the bait in the next video as well, so make sure you do like and subscribe and hit that bell so you know when this next video comes out. I'll give you a little hint, it's next weekend. The other con is if there's any weed in that water that's significant, it's going to get caught on your line. It's going to make it very difficult to slide bait, because that slide does need a clear path all the way down to that solid ring. Alright, so any weed in it's no good. As I said, a lot of guys don't slide bait due to the time it takes, but I can tell you now, whoa, that rod almost took off on me. I can tell you now that if you get slide baiting under control, you are able to catch a lot larger fish with a lot less gear and a lot less stress on everything. It's a heck of a lot of fun, guys, and it certainly has its place. Now, you're not going to slide bait every time you go out fishing, but you certainly will find the time and place for it. Now, guys, as I said, next weekend we're going to drop down the whole how-to slide bait, where I'm going to show you how to shoot that bait out, how to bait the hook, why we bait it, how we do, and everything we do to catch a fish with slide baiting. So if that's something that interests you, make sure, as I said, subscribe, hit that bell, just so you get that notification. Boy, that wind's really picking up. All right, guys, until the next episode, I'm logging out. I've been talking too long, and I'll see you on the next episode. Catch you later.